Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to the Don't Wait for Your Wake-Up Call podcast. I'm excited to have another wonderful guest here with me today. Her name is Julie Boyer, and she is the host of the Wake Up with Gratitude podcast, an intuitive biz and health coach, and 3-time Amazon best-selling author. And we're going to do something a little bit different here today. This is a celebratory show because this show is coming out on January 1st, 2022, my first episode of 2022 with a whole year ahead of us. And Julie is hijacking the show. She is going to be the host today and interview me. It was her idea. I thought it sounded really fun. And because there's 5 Saturdays in the month of January 2022, I have 4 episodes of content planned and this fun episode for you. So take it away, Julie.
Oh, thanks, Melissa. This is so much fun. I love the opportunity to get to turn the tables on a podcast host. It's really fun. So I'm really excited for you. First of all, Happy New Year.
Thank you. I'm excited for what 2022 has to bring.
Oh, I'm so excited too. There's just such a breath of fresh air when we flip that calendar over. But I think it's also super important, and a lot of what I teach is about looking back on what we've done, what we've accomplished, and celebrating things. And we can't forget to celebrate that you were awarded the 2021 Quality Care Award in the Business from the Heart Awards. Congratulations. That's so exciting, Melissa.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor to receive that award because I really do take so much pride in the high quality care that I give to my clients and holding their hands so that they can be successful. I want my clients to achieve their health goals and truly heal. So yes, it was wonderful news. I'm very honored. Thank you.
So you've had such an amazing year with your Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. Can you share with us a little bit what you enjoyed the most about launching this podcast in 2021?
Well, I have to say that before I launched, it felt overwhelming and I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I knew I didn't want to write. I didn't want to be an author. You're an amazing 3-time Amazon bestselling author, but I just don't have writing in me, but I can speak my message. And when I met Michelle Abraham of Amplify You, my podcast coach, Michelle as well, she mentioned that the attention span people have for podcasts are so much longer than the rest of social media. And so that got me intrigued. And then when she created her Launch Your Podcast in 4 weeks, I was like, okay, if someone's going to hold my hand every step of the way and show me how, I can buy into that. And she and her business partner, Evan Splitman, made it so easy. And I am enjoying it so much. And really, most of all, what I'm enjoying is the interviews that I'm doing with other people and meeting other amazing people to bring onto the show. And I have a lot more of that happening in 2022 to share all sorts of different modalities of healing, right? Because there's not just one way to heal. There's so many ways to heal. And so I feel it's really important for people to know that. And I want to continue to educate people in various different themes throughout the year. So that's what I love.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love what you said too about the audio versus the written. And it's interesting because, I've been a podcaster for 2 years myself, and I don't write as much as I used to at all since I've done the podcasting because I really enjoy this medium as well. Now, before you actually launched your own podcast, you were a guest on other people's podcasts before. Would you, if someone else was thinking about starting their own podcast, is this something that you would recommend?
I absolutely recommend it. And I was on your podcast among many others, and I absolutely loved it. And it's such a great way to get your feet wet, because I remember my very first podcast interview. It was with the lovely Adele Anderson of Mind Your Freedoms. And I'd known her for many years. So it was a little bit of a comfort zone. It wasn't a brand new person, but I really, I prepared for that and spent a lot of time working on it because I didn't know what to expect. And I was quite nervous about it. And it went really well because it was just a conversation. And the next podcast I was invited to be on, I prepared again. And pretty soon I started to learn that even when people sent me questions that they were going to ask, half the time they were never asked. It was just a conversation. So I really couldn't prepare for it. And instead, I just had to show up with all of the knowledge that I have and the message that I want to share and have that conversation. And I found, very shortly that it was fun. It was the quickest way to lose 45 minutes, right? Because the time just flies by when you're in that flow state. And I'm absolutely in my flow state when I'm a guest on other people's podcasts and then now doing my own. But it definitely got my feet wet so that I knew what it was like to be on the other side of the microphone and the screen. And that helped me prepare for launching my own podcast. Absolutely. And I still love to be a guest on other people's shows.
Absolutely. I love that. So you said something that was really interesting is that, you had the experience first and then you became a podcaster. And I think, as a health practitioner, being able to ask really good questions is something that is very, very important in the kind of work that you're doing. And I'm really curious for you, in your particular kind of work that you do, how does that different from other practitioners? For example, how is it different from like working with a naturopath?
So it's different from working with a naturopath because I saw this gap in the market from working with a naturopath myself for myself and my children, and particularly with lab testing and getting the results. And they would share the results with me. And then that was it. It was now you go and figure out how you're going to eat gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, egg-free for your daughter, right? And I didn't get any support. And it was actually at a time where before gluten-free was really popular and it wasn't as easily accessible. And luckily I wasn't the one struggling with my health. It was my daughter. So I still had the energy to figure this out for her. I wasn't suffering and trying to figure it out. When you're the person who's struggling with your health, it's really hard to then have to figure it all out for yourself. And you don't know if you're doing it right. And you've got your brain talking to you, asking you to come back into your comfort zone where it knows it can keep you safe. And so it's saying, this is hard. You don't even know if you're doing it right. This is taking way longer. And that's where we fall off programs, right? And for some people getting those lab results, when you get told, don't eat dairy, don't eat gluten, don't eat eggs, don't eat sugar, they're like, well, there's nothing left, right? Because that's what they're used to eating. And so then I know people that have got those kind of results and they're like, well, I just can't do it. Like, that's impossible. That's ridiculous. And so they do nothing, right? So what I offer is a package of sessions so that, we do the intake. We go through, very often we'll go through a detox because it's really important to clear our pathways and get all those toxins out first before putting any healing protocols in, because we want the healing protocol to actually get to the cells and not just get all mixed up in the mess inside your body of toxins and then not even get to the cells, right? And then, review the labs with you and then guide you through that. I provide recipes. I provide, meal planning tips. I hold your hand through an app every step of the way of allowing you to track how you're doing. And there's a chat feature there with me so that when you have questions, when your brain is talking to you, you can get your questions answered and then talk back to your brain and go, I do know what I'm doing and I can get my questions answered. That's when we stay on track, right? So, through my programs where I'm guiding people through changing their diet, that's really important because our diet is a deeply ingrained habit. And it's hard to change those habits on our own without support. And so I do offer a very high level of support and communication and connection. It's not just one appointment and then you're left. to your own devices. But even the difference between working with a naturopath or a holistic practitioner and your mainstream medical doctor, the biggest difference there is that we will give you an hour of our time to go through your intake and understand all of your health history and all of the possible factors that are contributing to whatever's going on for you today. And we dig deep and we look at the whole being. We're looking at your stress, your exercise, your nutrition, your family, your support, all of it, right? Whereas unfortunately, in our mainstream medical system today, you're limited to 7 minutes in some cases with your doctor. That's all you get because there's so many people that they're trying to get through. And how can they truly help you and understand what's going on inside your body to give you proper advice in just 7 minutes? It's just not enough time.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely something broken about our medical system here, especially in Canada. The free healthcare thing. I mean, as much as it's free, we pay for it in our taxes, but it's not ideal. And then having people like you, different types of practitioners that address, the underlying cause and stresses that are affecting our health is really critical. So I'm actually curious though, you mentioned that your daughter was going through all of these challenges with her health, and that was what prompted you to see the naturopath. Now, before this, were you already studying health and nutrition? Was this something you were already interested in?
It wasn't actually. At that time, I was in the corporate world and I did not have health and wellness on my radar at all. But somehow I innately knew that I needed to go deeper. So she was in grade 1, and after spring break, the teacher commented that she started putting her head down on her desk every day after eating her lunch and couldn't function for the rest of the day. And I was noticing she suddenly didn't want to play with her friends after school, didn't want to go on play dates, didn't want to play soccer, which was her true love. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she was always complaining of tummy aches. So when the teacher also mentioned it, and I kind of heard it a couple times in the same week, we made an appointment to go see the doctor. And the doctor said, well, all little girls get tummy aches. She'll grow out of it. And I kind of went, she's miserable. Like, how long do I have to wait for her to grow out of it? And the answer was, I don't know. And I'm like, she can't even function at school, right? And then I said, well, is there not some testing we can do to try and understand what's going on? Oh, there's so many things it could be. We'd never get to the bottom of it.
Really?
And I left that doctor's office going, okay, well, that didn't help, right? Yeah. And I was already working with a naturopath for my own hormonal imbalances because the same doctor had driven me there because that doctor just wanted to give me another prescription. And I was asking why. Why are they suddenly worse? If I knew why they were suddenly worse, I could do something about it, right? Yeah. And the naturopath helped me figure that out. My progesterone levels were so low, and that's what was triggering them. And we rebalanced my progesterone, and the migraines went away for 7 years until my progesterone dropped again. And then I just did it again because now I knew why, right? Yeah. So I already had a relationship with a naturopath and still do to this day. Even as an integrative health practitioner, when I run my labs, I still love to review them with her because she's known my health for over 20 years. Right. And I want a second opinion too, right? So anyway, I called her up, or I emailed her, can't remember, and said, this is what's going on with Samantha. Is this something that you think you can help with? Mm-hmm. And she said, yeah, let's get her in. Let's do some food sensitivity testing. And we did that. And then that's when we found out she was intolerant to wheat and dairy. And I had no idea. I've been feeding her wheat and dairy every day for her entire life because I had no idea, right? Yeah. And we removed that wheat and dairy. And inside 2 weeks, she was back to soccer, playing with her friends again. Like, it was such a difference. And then the interesting thing was, though, is that in order to feed her a healthy breakfast going out the door, I had started feeding her eggs, remove the toast, give her the fruit, took away the cereal, no milk, fruit and eggs, right? And after about a week, she started saying, I really don't want eggs, mommy. And I'm thinking she's being difficult. And I'm trying to get her out the door, me out the door to work, her sister out the door. And I just keep feeding her eggs and telling her to eat them. Well, after about a month, we went back to the naturopath to check and redo the test and see how everything was showing up. Well, the wheat intolerance had come down, the dairy intolerance had come down because she hadn't been eating any of them. Eggs were now highly intolerant. Sure, yeah. So I just went, oh my goodness. Yeah. She's been trying to tell me in her 7-year-old language.
Yeah.
And it comes out as I don't want.
Mhm.
It wasn't coming out as I don't like this. It makes me feel nauseous. It gives me tummy cramps or any of that kind of detail. So I had no idea. But then we removed the eggs, and eventually she did grow out of the gluten intolerance. And but she was about 12. So that's 5 years I would have had to wait. And to this day, she doesn't eat it a lot, and she doesn't do any dairy, and she can do eggs, but she doesn't love to. It's like a once a month thing. But having that knowledge and having that power of those lab tests really helped us resolve it quickly so she could get back to her life and I could get my happy, energetic, social daughter back, right? In 2 weeks, as opposed to the other option from my medical doctor was she'll grow out of it. Well, that would have taken 5 years.
Yeah.
And it might have even taken longer because those foods wouldn't have been removed from her diet.
Yeah, exactly. The inflammation just might have increased and the discomfort and could have affected so many ways in her life. So that's amazing that as a mom, you took that action, you didn't take no, you didn't take that answer from your doctor as being the be all and end all, and you did the work and then you followed up, and then that allowed you to find a new career, which is so exciting. I love that.
And it still took time. Like I didn't just leap into helping others as a result of that, right?
Yeah.
But other things happened in our life years later. And then now I look back at it going, wow, I was being primed for this all those years ago with my own migraines and her food insensitivities, my other daughter's food insensitivities. And now those same labs that we used for all of that back then, I offer to my clients now. So it's interesting how we're always exactly where we're supposed to be. And when you have that 2020 hindsight, you can see the steps to how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's great because often when, as a practitioner, when you've had your own experiences or your family's had those experiences, it helps with you to just be more empathetic to what your clients are going through because you've lived it or seen it up close. And that makes you just a more caring practitioner, which I see in you. Absolutely. You have such a big heart and you're so kind and generous. And, I want to switch gears just for one sec, because we are celebrating your 1 year of your podcast. Yeah. So I have an on the spot question for you, which is, can you share something or a couple of things that you learned from your guests this year that kind of went, oh, like I hadn't heard that before, or, oh, that's new to me?
Sure. So I've had so many amazing guests on the show. And one of the things that I've learned just recently, this podcast came out in November, and I can't remember the episode number, but the interviewee was Scott Donnell of HapB Inc. And he's in medical wearable technology. And this was really cool because he's on a mission to help a lot of people. And this technology is using I won't explain it well, you have to go listen to the podcast, but it's using low grade energy of our body to be able to get better sleep, calm our body, give ourselves more mental clarity, etc. And so things that we often will do, we'll use alcohol to calm, we'll use drugs, we'll use nicotine, we'll use coffee to stimulate ourselves, but all of these have side effects, right? And then sometimes when we let those things go too long, we're ending up at the doctor's office and we've got anxiety or depression, and now we're using prescription drugs. With this wearable technology, you can help yourself without any of the negative side effects. And they're making it really affordable for people. And I just think it's amazing. And they're just getting started. If you go to the podcast, you'll find in the show notes a link to this technology so you can learn more about it, as well as a discount to buy it if you're interested. But in our conversation, you will hear us talk about, with this, the sky is the limit. Like they're just getting started. And it's really, really powerful. And so that was one super fun interview that I did. There's been so many amazing interviews. I did an interview with Blair Kaplan Venables, I know you know her. She's an amazing friend of mine, and her resilience project is an incredible project. And with this podcast out, her book has just been released, I believe. And so that's another episode for people to check out, because every time I talk with Blair, I learn something, and I just love her outlook and perspective on life. And another really fun episode was with Tanya Constantini Zimmerman, and it was the last episode in October, and it was all about sound healing. And I again, I hadn't ever dived deep into sound healing. I know how music in and of itself can be healing, and it can shift your energy. And on my phone, I have an energy shifting playlist for when I'm feeling down. I can just turn it on and dance it out and shift my energy and come back with renewed energy to whatever I'm doing. So I'm aware of that, but just her sound alchemy and how she's blended different modalities of healing into her unique form is incredible. And she gifted one of her sound healing recordings at the very end of the show. So that's super cool as well. People can tune in and learn about that as well. There's so many, but there's 3 for you.
That's so great. And it's fun, like when you look back at a year of episodes, is like just picking out 3 helps people that maybe this is the first time that they're introduced to your podcast. And then we can guide them to check out those interviews and learn a little bit more, like you, about different topics that you're bringing on board. Now, out of curiosity, what can the listeners expect as you move forward through the rest of this year?
There's, I've planned out the first 6 months. And
wow, amazing.
And it may shift, etc., because I'm also always meeting new amazing people that I want to bring onto my podcast. And I did ask my podcast coach, can I just do interviews? Because I love doing the interviews. And she's like, yes, but people need to get to know you and your work. And if you just do interviews, you're showcasing everybody else and not yourself. So I will still be continuing with my 2 solo episodes, 2 interviews per month. And when there's 5 Saturdays, something extra like this episode to fill in that 5th Saturday. And I'm starting out January with a focus on slowing down. We all get caught up in this busy world. And, there's a lot to setting goals and setting intentions as we start the year. But are we setting ourselves up to be doing too much? And if we slow down, can we actually accomplish more? So I'm really excited to talk about that in the month of January. And each month I'm again focusing on a different theme like I did last year. And I haven't got it all ironed out yet, but I know what January is. So stay tuned for January and then everything to come beyond, trying not to repeat themes of 2021. But if I do, it will be because it's an important theme and we need to dive deeper.
Well, and truly, we all wish that our listeners listen to every single episode of our podcast, right? But yep. Probably haven't.
Exactly.
So it's totally acceptable to repeat things. I love how you do the thematic, work with your podcast. I think that's great. It helps people know what's coming up, what's going on. It's funny, when I first started podcasting, I was doing a lot more solo episodes. And then I got really into just doing interviews and sharing people's stories. And so the majority of my episodes in my second year have been interviews. I've had a couple of times where I've done this kind of turn the table thing to share different parts of my own story. But I agree, it's like this balance of the enjoyment of learning from being interviewing people is so much fun. Right? You do get to introduce to things that you might not otherwise. And at the same time, making sure your audience connects with you as a practitioner, as a podcaster, as a host, and as an expert, right? You are, you're an expert in functional medicine. Like that is what you're doing. And that's what we want to showcase here. So just tell me a little bit about, so if I show up and I'm like, Melissa, I want to work with you, what does that look like?
So I offer everyone a complimentary 30-minute consult to start out because people need to get to know me and I need to get to know them. Although I have to say, because there's only so many 30 minutes in a day and my business is getting busier, I am looking at possibly creating a 15 or a 20-minute session, but providing a video, because a lot of the things I say are the same to every single person, right? So providing a video that once people book, they can watch the video. So they come with all of that knowledge. And then the 15 minutes is really about them and their health goals or their health concerns. And I need to understand if, am I the right practitioner for them? Or is there somebody else that's going to be, better able to serve them. And so that first session is really about, are we a good team to work together? And them understanding the expectations that they're not coming to me for me to do the work for them. That doesn't work. I can't even do that. They're coming to me for me to guide them in how they need to do the work for themselves. And the expectations that they need to trust in the process, right? So that's that first conversation. And then if they decide that they want to work with me, then it depends at what level they're working with me, because I have a couple of different programs. So are they just doing my detox program? Because you can just do that. And that's a group program or a one-to-one program. I plan to offer more group programs in 2022. It's been really popular. People get such great results. I have 100% success rate guiding people through. And nobody ever got to the end of it and said, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Even if on day one, I get the occasional message that goes, this is too hard, I want to quit. And I've had that, and they don't quit because they can message me and I can support them through. And when they get to the end, everybody has profound results in some way and will continue with detoxing in their, as part of their new lifestyle, but they know how to do it now. So they don't have to, pay for my program every time.
Yeah.
So whether somebody's doing that, or whether they're wanting to do lab tests and understand, what's going on inside my body? Why am I feeling the way I am? Is it hormonal imbalance? Is it candida bacteria, yeast overgrowth? Is it food sensitivities that could be the problem? Is it inflammation levels that could be the problem? Is it mineral deficiency or metal toxicities, right? So these are all things that I can look at with these labs. And then they're buying a package program, as I mentioned earlier. It's not just do the lab and they get one session and then they're on their own. And they choose the package that they feel best suits them, right? Based on finances, based on how much support they want, et cetera, et cetera. So, we do that initial session. And then from there, we do the intake session. They do the intake form. We go through that together. We then, depending which path they've chosen, we then start with our session one and move through the process. It's all very clearly, laid out and explained. And I have my clients book each session probably at least 2 to 3 weeks in advance so they can get the time they want in my calendar. Because if they wait to book last minute for their next session, it's not going to be there. So yeah, that's how it works. It's very easy.
That's amazing. I love what you're offering. You have so many different things that you're offering, different ways that people can connect with you, different ways that they can work with you. And like the podcast is free. So, and I think it's very generous of you to offer that, that consultation at no charge for the first appointment. That's very generous of you. That's amazing. So as we kind of wrap things up, what is exciting and new and planned in business? You kind of touched on a little of those things, but what's going on for you in business in this next year?
So 2021 has been a big year. I completely revamped my website. I started my podcast. I launched my YouTube channel. So there's been a lot going on and it has been really exciting. And so 2022, I really want to move into, refining that process of clients finding me through some of this, free information, free content I'm putting out, the podcast. I also on YouTube do 1-minute health hacks. Those get posted to my social media. So continuing that, but something that I'm excited about that I've launched quietly at the end of 2021 and will be opening up more in 2022 is a membership program for my past clients. So anybody who has done my detox program, to have them be part of this membership, continue to have access to all of my content, and looking at monthly Q&As. As the membership grows, I may start to do them more often, but even when people finish my programs and have gone all the way through, then, they still want to continue looking after their health. They might have questions. Where do they go? Right. And so just offering that as a way that people can stay connected with me, I can stay connected with them. So far, it's been really well received by my clients as I launched it quietly. And then now I'm going to figure out in 2022, do I have different levels of that? Just like I have different levels of packages. So that's what's coming.
Oh, congratulations. That's so exciting. Well, thanks, Melissa, for letting me turn the tables on you today. And I'll send it over to you to wrap things up.
Well, thanks. It's been super fun. I love doing this. Never done it before, but yeah, super fun to have the chance to be interviewed on my own show. And to my listeners, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you being here. And yeah, come back next week because that's when we're going to be starting the episodes all about slowing down and getting more done. So happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thanks so much, Julie.
Oh, it was truly my pleasure. That was so much fun.
Bye.